Any day now. All right, it looks like we are ready to rock and roll. And hi, everyone. Thank you for joining me. I'm excited to share what kind of Scrum Master are you? What type of Scrum Master? And we're going to explore that today. So let me get my share up and going. And let me know if you can see my presentation here. So it should be showing right now. And what we're talking about is 67% of Scrum Master jobs are rising in the last 2 years. And this is continuing to increase, even though from the pandemic that we've had, even in 2020, it continues to still rise. If you go on the LinkedIn jobs, even in Agile Coaches, they're starting to pop up and resurfacing. And Scrum Master, we know that it started out as a role when it first was developed, but it's really turned into a career now. It's no longer just a role. We all know that you can actually make a career out of this. And so I ask all of you, what type of Scrum Master are you? So today we're going to dive into what drives what and when it comes to getting results and how we can measure impact and motivation and gearing up for 2021 for your Agile career. And especially this is around Scrum Master, but we can really kind of expand it out into Team Agile coaches and such. But I thought I'd narrow it down for Scrum Master for right now today. Now, hi, those of you that may or may not know me, my name is Veronica Stewart. I am an Agilist, but I'm also a career and life empowerment coach. And so I help professionals get clear, re-energize, and have their strategy so they can get to action in their careers and lives so they can actually be in the driver's seat and have choices. I have been an Agilist for years. I've had the Scrum Master role. I've been a product owner. So I've lived it and breathed it. And currently right now I practice as an Agile coach as well. So I'm speaking from experience when I talk about this subject from both sides of the coin, being a Scrum Master and coaching Scrum Masters today. So I start with, and those of you that may not be familiar with the be, do, have. We tend to gravitate, and you hear a lot, I even talk about outcomes and goals, right? It's very centered around what we're trying to be, outcome driven. And then we start talking about objectives and actions. But here's the thing. What drives the right and the middle is really of who you are. And that's what we're going to start to peel that layer back and start to talk about that identity of who you are as a Scrum Master and how that drives everything from the outcome that you're trying to do and the behaviors and the actions around it. So I'm going to unpack this one. This is the Peter Dill's neural programming language change logical model. And what I've done is I always try to make sense of things and put it together of what this starts to look like. And so I try to take this model and look at things that we know out there today in Scrum Master and Agile world to make sense of it. And so we already know our capabilities and how and our skill sets and everything to do. This is, what people today get their Scrum Master certification through Scrum Alliance, scrum.org. And we also have Barry Overeem's, which I love, his 8 stances of a Scrum Master, really talking about those skills and capabilities. And this is really about how you are and what you need to do as a Scrum Master. Then we have, Jeff Watts, we have Lisa Atkins, and all these other things that are out there. And we talk about motivation, emotional intelligence, all these things around behaviors. We have tons of personality tests out there that we can even measure that today. And so that all sits in this behavior area. These are very two common places that we know that we sit and reside today when it comes to Scrum Masters. And so me as a coach, I'm coaching a lot is helping them understand how to do the practices, how to be a Scrum Master, and then also thinking about their mindsets of what we call being agile, right? You got the doing agile and then you have the being agile piece of it. But here is the thing. In this thing, this is why I love this visual representation. There are other things that actually drive why people do the things they do. And this is really more at the top of the pyramid that I'm showing you right now of your values and beliefs, of your core personal values, of who you are as an individual. And then if somebody really gets even further on your identity of getting clear about that type of Scrum Master, and then we can even go even higher to what is my life's purpose as you as an individual. When we look at the top of the pyramid, everything that you do below is going to be driven by those things at the top. Your capability. So how you learn to do a particular skill set is going to be driven by your why, what really truly drives you as an individual. And also your behaviors, right? So you can work on all the skill sets and behaviors, but at the end of the day, we know that the way we look at it and manage it is very different from every individual because it's essentially driven from above. Now, our environment also can have a particular thing, and we're going to dive in a little bit about talking about that, but that's also talking about your where and when. So that could be the job that you have, right, in the type of company, the particular situation. And if those of you that work in multiple teams, right, that can bring out different behaviors, or you're using different skill sets. But at the end of the day, how you actually handle these is going to be driven from those things above, who you are and the type of Scrum Master that you are, and those values and beliefs that you hold to yourself. So those of you that aren't on mute, if you can mute, that will help with the echoing. I much appreciate that. And so we're going to dive into some of these values and beliefs, but really talk about some of those other things as well. But this is a model and picture, so it'll help you connect to the dots when I start to talk about how we can measure impact, and really getting in and diving into what drives you and the type of Scrum Master that you can be. So here is another thing that just to kind of get on how we measure things. We know that we can measure expertise, right? We know that it's out there. We also know we can measure experience as well. These are kind of things that you'll see on somebody's LinkedIn profile, right? That's what they highlight on their resumes and so forth. Then we know that we can measure personality. There are tons, like I mentioned, there's DISC, there is predictive index, there's the Myers-Briggs, there is insights, there's motivation finder. There's many things that are out there, what we would call psychometrics, that actually measure your personality. But here's the thing. We actually now today can measure impact. And impact is based on what I was showing you on that neurological change model, is based on your values and beliefs. And so it's driven from something different. Now, if any of you have ever watched my Game Changing Work show, my show partner, we crazy have the exact same. Oh, is somebody scratching over my thing? Somebody getting crazy there? Or what's going on? Someone playing tricks on me today. I'm just going to let that flow. I've already had technical glitches all day today. She has the exact same profile as me as we measured. I mean, crazy. We even have the same month of a birthday, and both our husbands are Aries. It's kind of scary the more we uncover these things, but that's a whole other topic. But when we start to get into our personality and our psychometrics, we have actually realized we are quite different. And that's the amazing thing is We do not measure. Every time that I do like SCARF model, if you're familiar with that, it's a great thing. It measures your threat, emotional triggers, and reward state. Hers are entirely different from mine. We did the predictive index. She is a maverick. I'm a promoter. Every single time that we find a personality, she's like my test bed bunny, because I'm so curious to see if we rate differently compared to the way that we measure our impact. And so this is the really cool thing about it, because it's something different, but it really starts to answer why. Why do we do things, and what causes all the other things to be driven? Now, I posted this out. Some of you may have not seen this on LinkedIn, but I thought I would start with this, is getting us to start exploring some of these different things of how somebody might approach and think about when we're using Barry Overeem's 8 stances of a Scrum Master. And so you can look at all the different 8 stances that, based on how somebody's core values and beliefs on how they want to contribute and make an impact, are so vastly different. I am a game changer. So when I look at, and I look down as an impediment remover, a facilitator, a coach, a teacher, I'm looking down, and this is the way I approach how I contribute and think as an Agile coach. That is going to be my main driver. And so when I'm trying to get to an outcome, right, based on the goals and the outcomes, and also the actions that I need to do, it's always going to be motivated by that central driver of how I want to put my energy in. It does not mean that I don't have capabilities to think like a strategist or think and do playmaking things. That has nothing to do with what I'm saying. It's more of, where's my go-to on what drives me based on where I want to make an impact. It will always be driven by a game changer. Now, one of the things you can see in the difference, I have a couple of other things that I've put out on LinkedIn. I'm trying to save it maybe for our next webinar series, since we only have an hour together, is really looking at the Scrum events and how that would look like if I had a different way that I am wanting to approach it versus somebody that might be implementer centric. And you can see here where, if I'm coaching, even the way I approach coaching, which I have gone through coaching programs. I'm actually going through my second one for certification in life coaching, but it is where somebody that's an implementer is always going to be probably helping and wanting to coach a person to action and the way they think about it. Versus me, I'm always wanting to crack them open and see all the possibilities in how they approach to change. Like, I completely get energized off of it. And this explains a lot. Where when I was a Scrum Master or a coach, where my preference was, what I loved to start new teams, because it was so new and it was a change, and they were really, it was all new. And I really was energized on helping bring up new teams. I was also helped where I was energized when people are really, really wanting to change and they see the possibilities of where they want to go. And so as a game changer, I'm a natural transformation change agent in truth. But here's the thing: when I'm in an environment that people are not open to change, wah, wah, wah. It will suck the life out of me in playmaking. I'll do it, but I get really frustrated when they're not open to do it. Now, somebody else that might have a higher inclination as a playmaker will be a lot more patient and probably more trying when you're working with people that are not ready to change, right? They'll go that extra mile and they won't feel burnt out. They won't be like me, ready to have a glass of wine or something to just relieve all that stress, where I feel like, I'm a square in a round hole trying to fit something in. And so it was something that I started to realize, and especially when I measured my impact, why my behaviors and actions and all the things that I did was always driven by this game changer. And no matter how much I try to improve myself and so forth, I had to be honest with myself of who I am and my identity, that I am better suited in environments where people actually are open to change, period. So, what is this thing that I keep talking about? Well, in the GC index, it actually, they first did the studies, it was all centered around them wanting to know about the DNA of a game changer. That's what they were obsessed with about. And they did all the research to understand what made someone like Steve Jobs, what made someone do all these remarkable things out there that we know that are famous today, right, in history, that have changed the game. And so they were really trying to understand why. And so when they went through all this research, what they found was there were four other natural inclinations that surrounded this game changer that they identified. And those four other things were the strategist, the implementer, the polisher, and the playmaker. And what they started to realize through all this research is how they categorize this. And so what we're looking at here is a game changer. And I can say this because I am one. And it's funny because a lot of agile coaches, that especially the ones that have gone independent, I bet you if I measured most of you, you probably have a high inclination as game changers. I have to laugh about it because it's true. And it's an excessive imagination. We see the possibilities. We know there's better ways to do something, and we're always challenging the status quo. We are natural change agents. We come up with unique ideas. I know several agile coaches that are artists. They're either musicians, they do art, they always are doing something different. And you kind of wonder why, but now when I start to realize it, it's probably because I'm around a lot of game changers and they're having to have the ability to express that creative freedom and uniqueness, and they're able to outlet in that way. Now, there's another side of that imagination, which is a very pragmatic, and that's the strategist. And the strategist is somebody that really wants to make sense. That's actually my second highest inclination. I was a why child, and it's probably why I went into science, is because I like to make sense of things. I like to see how things connect. And so the space that I do really well is having that big picture view, that systems thinking, but being very creative and seeing all the possibilities of how these all patterns will connect. If you ever give me a goal or an outcome to have to work towards that, I get excited. It's like game on, jam on. It's my thing. And the strategist is really great of taking an idea and making sense of it. And so when I come up with my crazy ideas, as I call them, I at least can make sense of them. They don't end up being so crazy because I thought about it. Now, when we go into more of actionable, now this is where when people they are more in tendencies. And I actually measured my husband. Yes, I'm going to totally say something about him. He is the complete opposite of me. He's a polisher implementer. And what that means is he is obsessive on an actionable, but in a creative way of making things well, like making that to perfection. A lot of people are really big on quality there. This is an area in Agile that they're big on continuous improvement. This is where they know it always can get better. And so it's always wanting to be proud of craftsmanship and what you do. And he was always really big on good customer service and was quite obsessive about it in his career. Now, the implementer is very task oriented, but they're more pragmatic. They're all about getting to action, getting to results, and getting it done. They may or may not care it's of quality as long as they got the job done. They are all about execution. And that's where their heads are when you have a conversation. And you might be thinking of people you might go, oh, that kind of sounds like me. I don't know. Where they are all about how do we build it? What do we do? And they're all about that piece of it. And so the first thing when you bring up something to do, they're all like, well, how do we do it? they start asking those types of questions. It's always on a very highly task oriented, but in a more building ways. Whereas a polisher, they're trying to look and say, can I make this idea great? Can I actually deliver on it with quality? That's where they think about on an execution level. They're more about the craft of doing it versus the implementer is more about, is it buildable? Now you have the center, which is a playmaker. This is all about the people. And this is the person, or I should say the inclination, because it's not a person. We all have it. I have some playmaker in me. Is that about orchestrating, getting people together? And so this is all about orchestrating the future. And so this is all the aspects of the different ways how we can show up. And there's like thousands of different combinations of this. It's not one or done. That drives us when we look at that of why somebody does what they do. Why is it when our behaviors and our skill sets, they gravitate to a certain area versus others? Now, this is an example of so many different combinations out there. So just think of all the Scrum Masters out there in the world. We probably are looking at some of them today. We know, I don't even know the number of how many certified Scrum Masters or even people that are not certified today that are Scrum Masters out there. And we know that if you yourself or have been around other Scrum Masters, or if you're an Agile coach, you know that everyone gets to action differently. And the way that they actually get to an outcome is extremely different as well. Now let's have some fun. Here's my other diagram with the Scrum events. And I posted this as well on LinkedIn, but I thought we'd have some fun today. And what I did is I put a couple of profiles here, and this is going to get us to kind of be thinking about, if I'm a Scrum Master, right, putting the Scrum Master hat on, and I'm the profile up at the top, where would I gravitate my conversations around? So when I look at this, this is somebody that is an implementer polisher up at the top. Their first inclination is really more of driving to action and focusing on how to implement, but they also care about doing things with quality. So if they are facilitating a backlog refinement, they're more of making sure that everyone understands how to build it and making sure that's very clear, because that's where their head is. And also getting to action of getting through that backlog refinement, but they're the ones that are going to make sure that quality is being considered as well. And they probably will be asking, how can we improve the way that we refine so we can be more effective about it? Now, an implementer in regards to the daily Scrum is going to be very different from the one that we're about to look at on the bottom. Our stand-up is so long that we want to get back to work. They're the ones that are going to want to get through it. And it may or may not be about the people, with the conversations and the strategic planning and everything that might. It's more about getting to action, making sure that everyone has, their status going through, and, are we following the process? Because a polisher is also process driven. They like to make sure that we're following processes. And so their mindset, where somebody that with a Scrum Master that has higher inclinations might naturally go there. Now that might not be in the top there. They will think a little bit of strategic because they have some inclination there. But where you might not get them to probably focus on these events is the people, because they have a low inclination to want to put energy on the people part, or being a change agent of changing the way that we think about things. Now, it doesn't mean that the Scrum Master might not be effective of running facilitating a Scrum event. But if we're wanting them to really, with a team that is needing to be able to build a better relationships so they can have honest, transparent conversations and collaborate, they may or may not be the best person that's going to get the team to do that. Even though that is their role to make sure that people are getting together, they're going to have to find a creative way to maybe find someone else to fill that gap. Because it's not where they're going to want to put their energy. Now we have the lower part. This is a game changer strategist. Oh, that's my profile. Yeah, that's me. And I'm okay to be honest about it because that's who I am. Yes, I don't like implementing things. So don't ever ask me to do it. I love to delegate. Great coach and consultant, right? So here's the thing. I'm always looking at better ways to do something. I can live it. I can tell the story exactly what I do when it comes to that. I also think about continuous improvement. I also think about strategy, and I also think about the people, but it's always driven by my game changer of making sure that we're progressing and moving and challenging the way that we think about things. And so if we're adopting and think about backlog refinement, I'm going to challenge the status quo of how they're working and getting to think about, are you thinking about building products, or are you just interested in finding out about how to just write the stories correctly? Oh, can you guys mute your microphone there? I'll do it for you. So here is an example of the different ways that a Scrum Master can come to the table with their Scrum events. Now we're going to talk about motivation level. Well, guess what? You can have, as I mentioned before, you can have different impacts and different motivations depending on the individual. Even though you might have someone that has the same impact in getting to action, they can be motivated very differently. And this is where the personality comes in, the behaviors that drive that. So now let's get back to be, do, have. Now we know that who you are is going to change with those outcomes on how you get to action. And it's not the same for everyone. Now talk about outcomes. And what I did is I took a perspective of looking at from an inside out. Since we talk about us as an individual, right? And I say us as all of us in the WebEx today, is that we start with ourselves. What is who we are? And then we start to look outward of how does that go with the collective of maybe the team, the Scrum team that we're with. And then we start thinking about the company. And all of this lines up together, but sometimes it can be a conflict. And so the only way to really start is starting with you. I loved a LinkedIn posting that Michelle Midori put on for Agile Transformations, where it starts, the transformation starts within. And I completely agree with that, because you, of who you are and how you show up and how you actually want to contribute, does start with you. And it impacts the rest of the team. And then it impacts the Agile outcomes and the business outcomes that you have as a company. And so knowing who you are and how you want to show up is also going to make you a happier individual. So the realization of the type of Scrum Master that you are is going to make a significant difference on you and your happiness and how you can contribute and feel like you have purpose. But then it's also going to benefit on the other spectrum of the company, because they're getting 100% the best out of you. And it's a win-win situation for everyone. So what does that mean for you? What are your core personal values? That's a great exercise to start with. What are they? How do you want to make an impact? Is that a question you've asked yourself? And what are you most passionate about? Because all these three things, when it starts with you, is how you're going to project and show up to actually make a difference with your Scrum teams and the difference of the outcomes as the business, what they're trying to drive to results. So we think about 2021 career strategies. And this is something that I picked up one of the blogs. I put the references on the bottom there, and there's many out there, right? Everyone always has an opinion. But I liked this one. And it's getting you to think about how confident, right, are you, the confidence in being proactive out there today? Spending time on your resume and really thinking about that and upskilling, being open-minded about what you want and what's out there, and then building your personal brand. A lot of people don't think about their personal brand, but it's actually extremely important this day and age. And so all of these are what people that are talking about career strategies, people that are even like with recruiting, and this came from a recruiting company, by the way, of what their opinions are when it comes to career strategies for 2021. Now, of course, I take my spin on it and think of it in a little bit different way, because I'm all about you and thinking about, what do you want to master in your 2021 goals? Do you want an increase in salary? Hey, I want to get real. Is that, we know, and I've actually been paying attention to these things because I'm a researcher, is that the Scrum Masters, when I started way back being a Scrum Master, and I live in Florida, by the way, I'm even seeing the salaries increase. I see them out there right now, and I was like, oh, wow, they pay that right now? And I'm very surprised. So there's a lot of opportunity for Scrum Masters to start having choices in being strategic. And this is why I'm saying this. Flexible work schedule. If you are realizing during this pandemic that you like having more flexibility, Scrum Master is a hot job right out there that you can start having choices and thinking about that. Don't settle. And personal branding on LinkedIn. When's the last time you checked your profile? What is the way to do your profile? What is the way to actually start personal branding yourself? Are you getting out there, and do people know who you are and how you serve and how you can make an impact? Building relationships. Are you building relationships out there? If any of you guys see me on LinkedIn, I'm like a hot tamale every day, connecting with people, talking, getting out there. Shift from employee to contract. That might be a goal. Maybe you want to start extending your arm out and move from being a full-time employee to a contractor. It's so easy to do when it comes to the tech space in general, because I've done it, but it's also easy to do as Scrum Masters. We know that in 2021, contingent workers, especially what's happened with the pandemic, that they may or may not be hiring as much as in full-time, but they will be hiring in contracting. And it's a great opportunity, if those of you that want to test the waters and be in a different tax. I don't know if you guys are very aware of the different ways that tax structures and want to start taking advantage of that. I call that being the savvy independent. Or you want to align better to work on what you want to do. You have choices to work with a particular team, department, or a company that aligns with what I'm talking about, of who you want to be and what's going to energize you at the end of the day, where you truly feel like you can make an impact. And then my favorite is being in the driver's seat and just having choices. Who wouldn't want that? And so the question is, what's yours? What's your goal for 2021? Now, here's something that part of what I'm bringing also to the table is working with Happy on Mondays, it's part of the life certification that I'm going through now. I'm finding so many different things to kind of add to my tool set of really helping people be empowered and have choices in their career and life. And this is one of the things that are part of the MPL. And so I said, you know what? These principles can actually be part of Scrum Master success. And it's always knowing your outcome, right? If you actually knew your outcome that you want as an individual, the outcomes of the teams in the company that you're working for, how better will you be able to align yourself to be successful? Successful in what you want in your life, in your goals, or just successful in your career in general. Taking real action, right? Um, and getting to action on those things that you want to do, right? Making sure that if you need to reprogram yourself to be able to really step out there and be that true you, and then paying attention to your results, being willing to change. I think that's a huge thing. Now, for me, it's very easy for me to change in the sense of the idea of it, but I still have a mindset stuck that I have to work through my behaviors and personality part of it. So I didn't have to like worry about changing because change is very natural. So if somebody is a game changer, that's actually a natural state for us. But it doesn't mean I still don't need to work on. I have a coach that I'm working on the behavior piece of it. And then also upskilling on my skill sets. And so it really depends on, are you there yet and willing to change? And do you have the ability to start working through in that reprogramming of your subconscious mind that might be holding you back? And focusing on excellence and always living with gratitude and integrity. I think all of us Agilists, when we look at this, and we're like, duh, that's all about being agile, right? It's such a natural gravitation for us. And so for me, this is what I truly believe is Scrum Masters are in a great position going into 2021 to put you in the driver's seat and actually have choices. I think if I went back in time in the day when I started as a Scrum Master, I would be like, game on. Oh my gosh, I have all these options. And it's only going to be increase more as companies are becoming aware of how much they need to be adaptive and needing to change based on what's happened today out there in the world. They're realizing that Agile is the way to go. And check out the job boards between what's actually happened in the last couple months and how many postings you're seeing out there. I bet you it's going to be interesting in 2021. So bringing this back all together is really looking at all of this. And it really starts at the top of the pyramid of really what is your purpose in life and what do you want that's actually going to make you motivated to where you get up every day, as I always say, and feel like it's Friday night going to work. Wouldn't you want that? And having that driver's seat and having these choices, anybody in tech and especially in Agile today, embrace it, take it because it's there, it's right for the picking. And getting real on who you want to be, what's actually going to energize and motivate you, and really go through those motions to get to that point of what type of Scrum Master are you? How do you want to go into 2021 and be different from everyone else out there? It's your ability now to take between now and 2021 to start doing something. And so I leave with this as I pause and we have time to actually talk, which I love, is that if any of you that are interested in doing a discovery call with me, it's free, no obligation, 30-minute, and get a hold of me if you're interested in exploring further on how you can actually do a Scrum Master empowerment discovery. Because again, it's about you being in the driver's seat and having choices. Now, I have somebody that put in a chat. Oh, misspelling. Oh, you know what? Doesn't surprise me since I am not a high polisher, and it takes me editing all the time. I'm more about, oh, it's okay, it's good enough, go. So I will fix it. Thank you. Because I've looked at it about 10 times and so now it gets me curious, Mark. I'm like, what's his inclination? And I need people like you. And this is one of the things that I realize is, especially being an entrepreneur, is I have to make up for all these things. And I have to have extreme discipline because I have a low implementation inclination. But it doesn't mean that I can't get to action. I get up at 5 a.m. every day. I have a plan, but I have a regimen. I have created structure in order to make that happen. But here's how I did that, because it's driven by my game changer. And so this is part of that exploratory of really kind of unpacking how do you do the things that you want to do and why, and having it all driven from your motivator of your core values and beliefs, because that is what's going to get you going at night. Trust me. And when I became true to myself and true to why I do things, it just opened up a world, poof, for me of acceptance. And I'm a lot more happier knowing this truth, and really going through, and all the mindsets and the subconscious and all these programs I'm doing are always centered around my game changer. That is what always will drive me in my positive direction of personal development and truth. It's never going to be, if somebody's trying to drive it in a different direction, I'm going to buck it. I'm going to fight it. And I've taken so many classes. If you see how many certifications I have out there, and they try to package it in a very cookie cutter way. It doesn't work that way, because we are driven differently. And even how we learn, we all know that in brain science, we learn very differently, right? And so it really is, once you start working up in that top level of who you are, what's your purpose, and why, it will drive everything below. And also thinking about the environment you put yourself in, because everyone should shine, right? Now I'm open up for a couple of questions if any of you guys have any to explore. We have about a couple more minutes before we end. I'll open up the chat here if people don't want to talk, but you're free to talk, since I don't know how big of a group that we have.
So Veronica, I have a question really quick. So the GC index, I was wanting to listen. I'm a typical male. I can only focus on one thing at a time. I was trying to look at their website really quick. Is that a paid product that you have to go through, or is there something that we can get a Veronica Stewart special and get a free coupon code or something for that?
So for me, you have to go through a GCologist, and I'm also a GC partner. I wasn't going to put it in this one, but the next webinar that I was going to do, I was actually going to offer what I call pre-New Year's special. So it's definitely coming, Mark. But if you want, we can talk about it offline. But I am going to be offering for a select group if you come to my next session that I'll schedule. But I kind of wait on it, in truth, if I should do it for today. It is one of those things, should I do it now or should I do it in my next webinar? But it's definitely something that I am going to do, is a very discounted consultation with that, if you're interested in just doing that piece of it. On the coaching of the Scrum Master Empowerment, which I do a lot of the one-on-one coaching, is really cracking that nut and going through and really understanding who you are and going through that process of that subconscious based on the goals that you want to do as a career as a Scrum Master. But if you're just interested in wanting to know what your profile, we can do that as well.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Great question. Anybody else have any questions?
So I'm not shy. If nobody else is going to ask, I'm going to speak up.
You have the floor, Mark.
So one of the things I was curious about is remote Scrum Master positions. Where do you see the possibility for that? And so I don't live in a rural area, but it's not a large city either. And Scrum Master role, or I guess you'd say jobs, aren't plentiful. So I'm just curious what you see about the remote, the 100% remote option for Scrum Masters.
I see possibility in the ability to start designing that in truth. What has happened in the pandemic, and this is me because I've gone from teaching and very created what I wanted to do. And a lot of times people don't know that it's a possibility. And sometimes in your interviews, when you talk to people, I mean, there's times I applied for a job and I actually designed it the way I wanted it. And I'm not the only one that's ever done that out there. And I honestly think that companies, because they're starting to balance the distribution of remote, and they're starting to go, well, if I have some team members in this state or this part of the city, why wouldn't I allow a Scrum Master to be remote? Because they're working with remote people anyways. I've always found, in all honesty, as an Agile coach, if you have any distribution on a team at all, it's the Scrum Master needs to know how to work with that. I used to make them be like, can you go work from home or go work from somewhere remote? Because I need you to experience it. And it's actually a great skill set in a selling for all Scrum Masters to say that they know how to do this. Because I think a lot of companies and managers out there, they're going to need help in this. And so if you're thinking about upskilling right now, I would upskill in that. Is feel confident that you can help solve that problem. Because at the end of the day, when you're personal branding and you're talking about who you're going to serve, find out what the problems are. Forget the job description and posting. A lot of them just kind of cookie cutter. And if you read them, they're kind of stupid if you want the truth. You almost have to talk to the hiring manager and really understand their problems and what the challenges that they're having. And that is going to allow you to do your pitch and sell. You know, the one thing that I love, and all of you should take the SCARF model, is that it shows you the social emotional triggers of people. Now, we all know that purchasing is an emotional decision. Now, we also know that with the GC index, we're trying to take away some of that, opinion based, because we can actually know where somebody wants to put their impact. But that still doesn't take away your ability to show how you can help solve their problems. Because at the end of the day, they're making a decision. Can this person solve my problems that I have right now? Right. And so we are in the business of selling when you're interviewing. You're also in the business of interviewing them. Are they selling you the goods that you want? And that's what I always highly encourage is put yourself in the upper hand where they're wanting you more than you want them. I kind of like being in that position.
Hey, Veronica, this is Carlos Roman.
What's
How are you?
up, Carlos?
It's been a long, long time, huh? So, and it's great to see you and that you're doing so well doing these types of events like this. I'm looking at your 8 stances of Scrum Master.
Yeah.
Is your idea of a 30-minute Scrum for empowerment discussion is to go through those things and kind of develop a question bank so that eventually it'll become some sort of like a quiz or examination that will let a Scrum Master know what kind of Scrum Master they are?
Well,
is that what you're alluding to? Or I mean, because some people think they know who they are, but they're really not. And they may not fit in any of those categories, but they probably in their mind think they are, but they're not. And people may even choose another category that they really are in, you know? Some people may think they're implementers, but they're actually really strategists and don't really know yet. So I think it would be cool if something like this of a graphic that you have that maybe a few questions for each of those blocks would come out to develop some sort of like that Q&A that will determine truly what kind of Scrum Master somebody is.
Well, the GC index, the consultation, the profile actually is part of that survey.
Oh, it is. Okay. That's,
yeah. And so the consultation, because I have the background of what I do, we peel that layer and we'd actually talk about it. And then the programs where I'm moving towards is really more of helping people with their career and go through. But if anyone really just wants to just be like, hey, simply, I want to know where I land on this.
Yeah.
And that's my important, we can always do that.
Gotcha.
Because I'm going to tell you right now, like I told you, my implementer is a 2. Okay. One is I don't put myself in situations whenever they say I like a hands-on coach. I'm like, because I'm not the hands-on kind of coach person. I'm more of a person getting you to see the possibilities, the strategy of connecting, and help elevate you to do the work. I don't want to do the work for you. So like a lot of times you'll hear where, oh, I want them to get in and do it with me. I'm not that kind of coach, because I'll do a little bit of it. But if that's what I did every single day, day in out, I'm not saying I won't do it at all. Don't get me wrong. But it's more of the repetitive. If that's the outcome they want all the time, is that type of coach, they probably are better with somebody that has a higher inclination of an implementer.
Gotcha.
Because I am going to get burnt out, and I probably will start not liking what I do, in truth. And so you're never going to get 100% of me. I'm going to start either having behavior issues, which I've had. I go look for another job, which I have. Or it's just, I'm just there, right?
Yeah.
I'm not energized about it.
Yeah.
And so that's really kind of that piece of doing the survey, is really understanding, what kind of Scrum Master are you? How do you want to show up? And where are your gaps? Because you can learn how to utilize it. And so for me, when it comes to, let me give you a story. I don't care about telling on myself, is that if they say, oh, we want you to be a Scrum Master for a while. Okay, I don't mind modeling a Scrum Master, but I don't want to get in and do the job when I'm coaching, because I'm wanting to help them do it. I will get irritated. If they ever ask me to do that now, I'm like, no, I don't want to do that job. I'm here to actually help the person do it. And, I've been in a lot of situations, in coaching engagements where they want me to fill the Scrum Master role because they don't have someone. I actually don't like that, because it's not what I want to do. I want to help that person, help create the team, help the Scrum Master team, but I don't want to do that work. And it's just a realization. When I was a Scrum Master, I was fine because that's what I did back then. But that's not what I went in there. Remember, putting yourself in an environment and the outcomes that you want to do. If they shift that outcome and change that environment on me, I get very unhappy, because that's not what I signed up for. And I can do it, but most likely I will end up finding another engagement. Or most of the time I just say no now, because I'm not interested. And obviously nothing that I have against being a Scrum Master. It's just, if you think you're a coach, you're thinking someone else is doing that, right?
Right. So I'll definitely check out the GC index. I'll take a look at that this evening. And if you need help in anything related to the discovery call, I'll be happy to help with that as well.
Sure. Well, if you're interested in doing the GC index, definitely get a hold of me. It is something that I offer to do as a consultation. But for me, those of you that want to take it a more level of really understanding how to empower yourself as a Scrum Master, that's going to explore everything on that NPL of really understanding your purpose, really understanding where you want to go, and kind of uncracking that in your subconscious of who you really want to be.
Sounds good. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Anybody else have any questions, or we're going to wrap up here?
have one question that's probably a little unrelated, but in terms of certifications for Scrum Master, I know there's a lot out there, and I know that some people are looking at, there seems to be it seems like there's a lot of people out there looking for people that are project managers to do it in an agile way. So it's not even really a Scrum Master position that they're asking for out there. And I'm trying to figure out if any of these certifications are worthy to help along that path, and if so, which ones you would rank higher than others.
Is that asking for you as an individual to satisfy your need or to satisfy their need?
Probably more from my need to round out my abilities, but I'm also curious from the employer position as to what they tend to gravitate towards.
Yeah, with this day and age and how educated companies are, it depends on what type of Scrum Master and career that you want. One of the things when you start to see project manager / Scrum Master, most of us will get leery because are their mindsets fully there and embraced what a Scrum Master is? And you can start looking in the description. Sometimes it's an HR thing and it warrants as a conversation, is they put it in there because it was an HR thing and they really haven't, shifted the job titles and roles. But really look in that. But when it comes to you and to answer your question, it's more of what do you want? And if you really want to be a Scrum Master, the first thing is those certifications, either getting it through scrum.org and CSM, is really showing that you put the effort into your career. This is why I said career versus role. I've gotten the certifications that I do to show that I'm serious and I'm invested in my career. And so you want to look at, if you truly want a Scrum Master to be a career, I highly recommend to get the certification because it's the part of that investment. Then when you take it further, it's more really understanding what kind of Scrum Master do you want to be and how to position yourself in the jobs that are out there. Because I've learned even through the years of back in even 2008, and there's like this period where there was like a hybrid between project managers and Scrum Masters, that it was more of an HR thing. And so I don't like to poo-poo just because I see it. I like to read it and actually ask the questions and really get some better insights in it. But career-wise as an individual, if you really want to be a Scrum Master, which I think is a great career to get into, where if you've been a project manager and now you want to be in a Scrum Master and you think that's where you want to go, it is definitely something to be serious about with those certifications. Do you need a certification? Some people are going to say no. Well, it's a lot better than going to college and getting a 4-year degree. It's sometimes they're looking at it is, did you invest in yourself in the career of being one?
Yeah, that's
right?
Helpful. Yep. All right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. I know a lot of us have different opinions when it comes to certifications, but I don't believe in certifying Scrum Masters for roles in a company that they just chose to do, right? But if you're wanting to take the path of a career, then I think it warrants you being serious about getting it. Because it's just like when I was a project manager back in the day, 50% of companies were looking for it in resumes. So it's just a no-brainer to have it. Doesn't matter our biased opinions about it. It's about getting hired and being able to market yourself, right, at the end of the day.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah, I like to be strategic. Again, I like to have choices. And if 50% of companies won't look at me because I'm limiting my choices, I'm going to do something about it. Well, thank you all for your time. I'm going to post out probably an upcoming webinar here, trying to get the schedule. It'll probably be around this time as well. But if any of you are interested in reaching out to get a free discovery call, figuring out what type of Scrum Master that you want to be, or if you're just interested in the GC Index profile, looks like some of you are, get a hold of me. Go to Rethink My Career at ingeniousagile.com and we can set that up. and we'll definitely dive into in a very Scrum-centric consultation, since it is something in my wheelhouse. So thank you all, and have a wonderful day.
Excellent. Thank you so much.